Greetings, beautiful family. Welcome to a new episode of Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Sheree Hardy. I hope you're having a beautiful day, peace, and abundant blessings. And I just had to pause and do another episode about Nancy Guthrie because the story has just been on my mind every day. And there are some more missing people that I'm going to talk about. And I want to give a shout out to Nancy Grace, the attorney, and also the crime reporter. She did some posts on some other missing elderly women and just in general some other missing people, and it's just so disheartening to hear about. Two of the women that I'm going to talk about a little bit later in another podcast, they're elderly. One is 72 and one is 78. So I want to address some questions because every day, you hear different reports, but there's really not anything new. You probably have heard about some of the technology that they're trying to use to find Miss Guthrie. And before I get into the episode, I just want to say we must continue to pray. We must not ever give up on the power of prayer. Prayer is very powerful. And as I said in the last episode, we must pray for all missing people. There are thousands of missing people in this country right now, and I'm sure their families are grieving. I'm sure their families are just disturbed by not being able to find their beloved. And so we just must continue to pray that the missing are found and don't give up on that. Believe and pray and believe, and the Most High God will answer us. There is something about when we pray, we don't have to all be in the same room, but when we're collectively praying about something, there is so I'm telling you what I know, not what I think, not what I heard, not what I read. There is incredible power. So let's pray that the families are reunited with their beloved, and not just Nancy Guthrie, but everybody, because there's so many different missing people. So this episode, I have 7 questions that I think law enforcement needs to answer to find Miss Guthrie. And if they can answer these questions, I believe they will find her and what happened to her. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. This episode will not be long. Thank you so much for listening and learning. As I say in every episode, I'm a teacher, but I'm also a learner, and I'm learning every day, and I'm just sharing what I learned, and I hope you will learn with me. And let's get into the episode. So before I begin, just for people who are new to the show, I am not a police officer. I do not have a background in criminology, or I've never been a detective or an investigator. I'm just someone who is concerned about this case and also other cases. And as I said before, at some point I'm going to do a podcast on 2 other elderly women, which is going to lead me to question 7. But I have 7 questions that I wonder have law enforcement officers been able to answer. And they may have, but they might not be able to share everything. So I know when they do investigations, the police officers and police departments cannot share everything, and there are reasons for that, good reasons for that. But the first question that I have and I'm curious about, and maybe if you're listening, you can share and respond in the comment section, is what are the theories about how Miss Guthrie got out of the house? And what I mean by that is they said that they found her blood, I believe, on the porch. But do they believe that she was carried out? Meaning, did someone pick her up? Because it's very unlikely that a single person would be able to just pick her up and carry her out of the house. So were there, and I'm probably going to be asking more than 7 questions, but if they carried her out, would they do that alone, or would they have been with someone? Because I don't believe that someone would abduct her, especially with her age and her size, and just carry her out of the house. Now, the person who came to the house and they showed that video, he was not prepared for the camera, which is interesting because he had to go and pull some bushes to block out. He didn't have anything already with him to block the camera. So I found that kind of interesting as well. So whoever this person was, were they prepared to carry her out? We saw one person, but is a theory that there were more than that one person, because I just don't believe that one person would have tried to carry her out alone. Considering her age and considering her size, I just don't believe it. Even though she was not a physical threat, meaning, having to fight back, I just don't believe she was alone. So that's one question that I have. What are their theories about how she got out of the house, and why isn't there any video at all? It's hard to believe that there's no video at all of somebody carrying her out. Which leads me to the other question. Okay, in one of that video of the guy who came to the home on the camera, he had a backpack, and some of the people who look at these things, they said that that backpack was full. And what was in that backpack? Was it something? And this is very painful to talk about, but was there something in the backpack that they were going to put her in? Because according to some of the former, like, FBI, experts and police officers, the backpack that the guy had some stuff in it. What was in it? Was it something to wrap her in? And again, were there any what is it? Were there any pull marks or skid marks where she was drag marks? And and they haven't mentioned that there were any drag marks. So she wasn't dragged, she was carried. Would a single person carry her out? What are their theories about how she got out of the house? And so that's another question. Now, if she was abducted, I know they don't believe, or do they believe, that criminals would be caretakers. When they took her, did they take the medication? I know they kept saying that because of her age and because of her health problems, she needed medication. Was the medication missing? Did they take it with her? Because that's going to reveal, and this is very uncomfortable, whether or not she's probably alive or not with us anymore. Because she would need her medication in order for her to survive. She would need it for her to stay healthy. So did they take it? Is that missing? Maybe they have answered that question and I missed it and they're not going to answer. Or maybe they know the answer and would not release that publicly. That's another question. I want to know about the service people. And I want to know how closely have they looked at these service people, because it is possible, and I said this in my last episode that I did on this, that she could have just been randomly chosen, but I don't believe that. So somebody had to know that she was at this house. They had to know something about her. They had to know that they probably knew that she was an 84-year-old woman with health problems and she lived alone. Because I just don't believe out of 8 billion people on the planet, she would be randomly targeted. So look at the service people. And maybe they have mentioned what some of the possible motives are, but if the motive is money, have they looked at people at the bank? There's another story that I'm going to talk about. I got to get this lady's name, but as I said before, if you go to Nancy Grace's YouTube channel, she has featured some elderly women who are missing. And one of the women is 70, I think 72 years old. She's a retired Navy veteran. And her son said that his mother, he looked at her bank accounts and he noticed that she had all of these suspicious debits. And that was cause for alarm because she was very frugal. She would not have done that. This case is where she was out at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is very rare, something that wouldn't happen. But the question is, have they looked at all those service people? And I think they need to take another look. I really do. They need to take another look, because I believe that whoever is involved is some kind of way connected to the people who come to this woman's home. And it may not be them, but it could be a family member, a friend of theirs. I just don't believe that she was randomly taken. I just don't believe that. And it's possible, because anything is possible, but it's hard to believe that all the people in the world. The other thing is, have they looked at, and I don't know, maybe they have mentioned something about this, what are her banking records? Is there any suspicious activity? But I would even look at the people. If she has money, we don't know her financial situation. But if she has money, even if it's not that substantial, I keep seeing these stories where elderly people are having their bank accounts wiped out. People are having their money stolen. And I believe it's an inside job because who knows how much money got in the bank except for the bank. So I would even look at people who work at the bank because I'm sure Miss Guthrie had some money. And to those people, to criminals, what we might think in the world of money is not a lot of money, to a criminal it may be a lot of money. So I would ask, has law enforcement looked at people who work at the bank? And I need them to look, I need to find out where she banks, and I want them to go to that bank and look at those people, because that's also, I believe, how a lot of people get set up. And I think I'm over 7 questions. Okay, now this is another one that's very hard to talk about, but I think they need to check the property again. Are they 100% sure that Ms. Guthrie is not still on that property? And the reason why I say that is because if there were no drag marks and she wasn't dragged, it's hard to believe, as I said earlier, that a single person would pick her up and carry her off the property. There would have to be somebody, they would have to drive something. If they carried her, they'd have to walk and carry her. And that's hard to believe at her weight, at her age, they would do that. And they would have to carry her where there, and that means that they would have had to have some kind of truck or something to put her on. Where are the tire marks? Maybe they were, and I missed it because I didn't watch every single episode and every single update. But that is something that I want them to look at again. Have they looked at that property thoroughly? Because there's a possibility that if she was hurt, she was still left on the property. And this is hard to talk about. If she were hurt and she was left on the property, and they would, people are looking all over when she's still there somewhere. And again, it would have to be someone that knows that property and knows, has been scoping out that property, probably doing some surveillance. But I think they need to check the property again, and they need to go through it. I mean, every single inch of that property to make sure she's still not there. Her body is still not there somewhere. So that's something. Another question, maybe, and I think they need to look at the news stations, because if I am correct, if I didn't get the information wrong, the ransom letter, these so-called ransom letters, were not sent to the family, which is sort of weird. They were sent to the media. Now, I understand that Miss Guthrie's daughter, Savannah, works for the media, so maybe that's why they sent the letters to the media. But trying to get a message to people through like a second or third party, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because if they were trying to get money from them, it seems like some kind of way they would contact them directly. So that's another thing they need to talk about, why those ransom letters were sent to the media. Is there a connection with someone in the media? I know I'm over 7 questions, you guys, but that's something to think about. I don't know if they've mentioned this, but I'm trying to figure out what's the motive. Again, 8 billion people on the planet. Why would they randomly select an 84-year-old woman from Arizona, even though her daughter is a public figure, just for them to go get this woman's mother? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So what is the motive? In many cases, the motive is money. So again, I want if anybody's listening to this, please contact law enforcement and ask them to check the people who work at the bank. Find out where Miss Guthrie banked, and then you need to investigate all of those people, because there could be a connection there too, because the motive is probably money. I mean, I can't imagine people kidnapping an 84-year-old woman. Criminals are not caretakers, so they're not sitting around caring for her until the money is delivered. That's not how that works. This is very weird and very disturbing, and something else is going on. Here's another question I'm going to end with. Is there a serial abductor? And the reason why I say that is because I did not hear anything in the media except for Nancy Grace's show. I did subscribe. I hope you will subscribe too, where she reported about these 2 elderly Black women who are missing. One is 72, and she's a retired naval person, and She hasn't been seen, I think, since the 9th of February. And there's another one who, now this woman they said has dementia, and she is 78. But is it possible, could someone be targeting and kidnapping and abducting elderly women? And I know that's crazy, but we're living in a world, y'all, where people are doing some really crazy and sick things. And we can't understand it. If you're sane, if you're trying to be righteous, if you don't believe in hurting people, you just can't understand people doing these evil things. So those are some of the questions. Again, I want to know if she was abducted from the home, how did she get out of the home? I just don't believe someone would carry her on foot by himself. And so where's the truck? Where's the vehicle that they used to remove her? There has to be some video or some tire tracks or something to reveal how she got out of the house. Have they looked at their property? Because is it possible that she could still be somewhere on the property? Which is very disheartening. But by now, there probably would be some signs, some physical signs that if she is there, unless they had planned this for a long, long time. And that's why I said they need to look at the service people again, because people come to your house, they fix things, they mow your lawn, and we know there are many stories like this where people come to your house and they're supposed to be doing a job and you pay them, but they're also looking at other things. And again, it's hard for us to understand sometimes these evil people's minds, but they see a situation, they may think, okay, I can take advantage of this. And because she was elderly and because she was alone and because of how her house is, they might have thought she would have been an easy target. Again, if it's hard to believe one person would have carried her on foot. And where are those footprints? And was there another person? Was there an accomplice or a group of people? What was in that backpack? These are just, I'm way over several questions, you guys. But anyway, these are just some questions. What is the motive? I want law enforcement to go to the bank, find out where she banked, and really do a thorough investigation of everybody at that bank. And I'm telling you, it might be a connection. There's something going on, because in the media, there's just story after story after story of elderly people being taken advantage of and being hurt by these evil people who work at these banks. And while they might not have stolen money in the past, they see it as an opportunity and they take advantage of people's age and their vulnerability. So those are just some things to think about. I don't have any connections. I know someone who said they had a suggestion and they tried to call the FBI, and the FBI was like, we're not taking any suggestions. And I love that, because this person is a good person and she was really trying to help. So because I don't have any connections, maybe someone who does will listen to this podcast, and I pray that they will interview people at Miss Guthrie's bank, and they got to answer the question, how did she get off the property? How did that happen? If there were tire tracks and they're just not saying it, how was she moved if she were moved? So these are just some of the questions. Again, have they looked at the people who are connected to her service people? And they need to look again. They need to search that property again. Well, peace and abundant blessings. I pray that Miss Guthrie is found and that all missing people are found. And we also need to pray for the comfort and the peace and the strength of those people who are dealing with the situation. Pray for their peace. Pray for their strength. Those of you who listen, you know that this is a spiritual podcast. And while I do have my own religion, what I try to do is focus on a connection with the Most High God, who is a spirit. And that spiritual connection is very powerful, and we all need it. In fact, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I can't take my next breath without the Most High God. I can't take my next breath without that spiritual power working through me. And so if you are a believer and you know that man didn't make the sun, he didn't make the moon, he didn't make the stars and the planets, and you know that there is something greater than our humanity, and people use different words according to their language. I'm saying God, but it is the creator. We need to tap into that power and that force and we cry out to him and we ask him for mercy. And we ask him for grace. And again, these other women, I have their names, but I'm going to do a podcast later. One of them's name is Margaret Hanley. And one of the ladies' names is Annie Tisdale. And I'm going to do podcasts later because I got to do some investigation. But I just saw some video clips that were on Nancy Grace's podcast on YouTube. So check that out as well. Well, I'm not going to make the episode long. I hope that you are well and continue to shine. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I do have a budding YouTube channel. If you're listening to this through Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other audio podcast app, you can go to my YouTube channel, which I'll put a link in the description box, and like the video and subscribe. Let us learn and grow together. Take care. Thank you for listening.